Looks like you're headed for the great beyond tomorrow, just as planned. I froze when I heard a woman's laugh and voice I didn't recognize. The voice was coming from my husband Nicholas's phone. Right now, he's in the shower. Our 4-year-old daughter Margaret happened to be nearby when his phone rang. She touched it and, not knowing any better, turned on the speaker. The woman, assuming my husband had picked up, kept talking. With this, we'll get the insurance money, and finally, we can be a real couple. I got a bad feeling, a real sense of dread. That's when I discovered the terrible secret plan my husband had been hiding. My name is Sophie. I'm 32 and work in an office. I've been married to Nicholas for 5 years, who is 3 years older than me and a company employee. Together with Margaret, we are a family of 3. Nicholas is a doting father. Margaret adores him and always clings to him. Every time I saw this, it filled me with joy. I always wanted to cherish the time spent as a family, so I'd adjust my work schedule to coincide with Nicholas's days off. We'd go shopping, visit the aquarium, or go to the zoo. Margaret was looking forward to those days as well. However, 3 months ago, things changed. You don't need to match your days off with me anymore. Work's gotten busy. What? But Margaret looks forward to spending time with you. It can't be helped. Nicholas yelled at me and left the house without saying another word. He didn't come back that day. Seeing this sudden change in his normally calm demeanor puzzled me. After that day, he started coming home late due to overtime, and the number of sudden business trips increased. And whenever he came back from those trips, his wedding ring was conspicuously missing. For some reason, he also seemed eager to take a shower right away. One day, Nicholas says to me, "How about we take a day off next week and spend some time together, just the 2 of us?" That's unusual, I thought, but it turns out I'm also off from work that day. Come to think of it, since Margaret was born, Nicholas and I haven't had any alone time. He tells me he's already arranged for Margaret to stay at my in-laws' house, so I happily agree. We could go for a drive to the beach, he suggests, and I can't help but look forward to that day. Then, the day before our date comes around. For some reason, Nicholas takes a shower as soon as he gets home. Normally, he takes his phone with him everywhere, even to the bathroom, but today he left it on the table. While I'm cooking, his phone starts to ring. As I'm drying my hands, Margaret picks up the phone and puts it on speaker. "Everything's set for tomorrow, he'll be out of the picture." A mysterious woman's voice fills the air. Stunned by her words, I keep listening. She seems to think Nicholas picked up and continues talking. "With this, the insurance money will be ours, and finally, we can." "Who's that, Auntie? A friend of Dad's?" Hearing Margaret's voice, the woman hurriedly hangs up. Margaret tilts her head. "What was that?" "Maybe it's a friend of Dad's." "Let's tell him." "Okay." Margaret runs off towards the bathroom with a smile. I guess she wants to tell her dad as soon as possible. In the meantime, his phone is left on the table. Just as I'm about to snoop through it, I hear the bathroom door open and quickly put the phone back in its place. Margaret informs a freshly showered Nicholas. "Dad, your friend called." Suddenly, Nicholas rushes into the living room, his body still wet. "Did you answer my phone without asking?" "No." Margaret picked up, but I didn't listen. "I see." His stern face relaxes suddenly, his brow smooths. "Is he cheating? And what was that about out of the picture?" That night, unable to shake my suspicions, I wait until Margaret and Nicholas are asleep. Then I check his phone again. The caller ID reads Eric. There are several calls from this Eric, but the voice was unmistakably a woman's. When I open WhatsApp, there's frequent communication with a woman named Caroline. Reading the content, it's clear that Eric is probably a cover, and it's really Caroline. In the messages I found on his phone, there were details about the sinister plan the woman had just mentioned. I was so shocked, I caught my breath. Who is this woman? I can't believe it. Fuming, I clenched my trembling hands tightly. Further investigation of his photo gallery revealed multiple selfies of Caroline cozying up to Nicholas. The woman in these pictures, attached to Nicholas like glue, looked familiar. Is this woman? Could it be? When I checked my work computer, it turns out she was someone I knew. So that's how it is. After transferring all the evidence to my computer, I found some important documents in Nicholas' carry-on bag. If you're up for this, be prepared. I've got plenty to corner you both. I then made a call to someone. I didn't sleep a wink that night, and morning eventually came. As I prepared breakfast, Nicholas, unusually up early and in high spirits, said, "Great weather for a drive, huh?" "Sure is." I replied with a fake smile, but he didn't seem to notice my mood. "All right, let's get moving." After dropping Margaret off at my in-laws' house, Nicholas started driving. Today, Nicholas was unusually chatty, rambling on about trivial matters. As I played along, my phone rang about 30 minutes into the trip. "It's a call from your mom. Margaret seems to have a fever. We need to go back." "What?" "I mean, we asked Mom to watch her. She should handle it. Mom says she has a fever close to 102 degrees Fahrenheit and wants to take her to the hospital. I have the medical insurance card, so we need to go back." "All right, fine." Nicholas reluctantly made a U-turn. When we arrived at my in-laws' house, Nicholas energetically opened the door to be greeted by a surprised-looking Sasha, my MIL. "Mom, how's Margaret's fever?" "What are you talking about?" "You called Sophie's phone earlier, right?" "I did. I never made such a call." Confused, Nicholas and Sasha were at a loss for words, but Nicholas quickly turned to confront me. "Hey, what's going on?" Fully expecting this question, I flashed a big smile and told Nicholas, That was a lie to bring you back here." "What?" "But the phone rang, didn't it?" "That was just an alarm. I set the ringtone and the alarm tone to be the same to make you believe that a call had come in." Just then, we heard, "Daddy, Mommy." And Margaret came running down the hall, hugging Nicholas around his legs. Nicholas glares at me, not even glancing at Margaret. "Explain yourself." "Oh, just returning the favor for all the lies you've told so far." "You kidding me? Are you making a fool out of me?" Hearing Nicholas' angry shout, a surprised and crying Margaret hides behind me. Sasha, sensing the mood, takes Margaret's hand and says, "Let's read a book upstairs," leading her to the second floor. Standing alone in the entryway, Nicholas just stares at me in silence for a moment. That's when the doorbell rings. Opening the door, to our surprise, it's Nicholas' affair partner, Caroline. "Caroline? What are you doing here?" Nicholas seems utterly flustered. "What do you mean? You invited me here to meet your friends in PIL, didn't you?" "I did." "Look. Here's the message you sent me." Caroline shows her WhatsApp screen to a puzzled Nicholas. "More importantly, why is your wife here?" Caroline presses, while Nicholas stammers, lost for words. "I was the one who invited Caroline, pretending to be you." Hearing my words, both of them look at me, eyes wide open. "What the heck are you thinking?" "Because I'm not ready to move on to the next world just yet." "Nicholas, you were planning something nefarious with me by the sea, weren't you?" "How do you know about that?" Both Nicholas and Caroline seem unsettled, exchanging alarmed glances. They clearly never suspected their plot was exposed. When Margaret answered your phone, I overheard Caroline say, "The plan is on, and my wife will be gone tomorrow." Anybody would find that strange upon hearing it. I moved to the living room, sit across the table from the two, and slam printed copies of their WhatsApp conversations and photographs on the table. I have plenty of evidence. How did you get this? Nicholas and Caroline are stunned, staring at the undeniable evidence. Did you forget what I do for a living? You work some desk job at a company. True, but it's a detective agency. These days, I'm doing more sleuthing than clerical work. At that, Nicholas and Caroline tremble in disbelief. And then, I lay out the $300,000 life insurance policy under Nicholas' name in front of him. I can't believe my own husband was planning to trade my life for money. That's a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? The entire plan is detailed in those WhatsApp messages. Well, you see. Nicholas scrambles for words, trying to make an excuse. I turned to the woman beside me, who was avoiding eye contact, and asked her a question. So, are you pregnant? What? Caroline's eyes darted around as she looked to Nicholas for support. To my surprise, he started defending her. Hey, yeah, she is. She's carrying a baby, so don't give her a hard time. That's not fair. Nicholas walked over to Caroline and affectionately rubbed her belly, giving me a glare. That's a lie. What do you mean, a lie? I'm 5 months along. Caroline pointed to a sonogram picture on the table. Look at this. This is proof. The date on that sonogram is 10 months old. If it was real, the baby would be born by now. What? What do you mean? Nicholas was watching the exchange between me and Caroline with a puzzled expression. The pregnancy is a lie. Also, did you know she's a scam artist? Nicholas looked shocked. Turns out, Caroline was a scam artist who targeted married men. Her scheme was always the same: pretend to be pregnant after dating for a while and then extort a large sum of money. I had been involved in a background check for Caroline through work and recognized her face. When I showed the investigative report to Nicholas, he was reading it, gasping. You're kidding me. Nick, all of this is nonsense. Don't listen to her. A panicked Caroline clung to Nicholas, but he forcefully shook her off and sighed deeply. I can trust Sophie because she's never lied to me. Compared to that, I can't believe you're not just lying, but you're also a scam artist. No, Nick, please believe me. Caroline sank to her knees, covering her face with her hands, and began to sob as if to gain sympathy. However, even Nicholas seemed to realize he could no longer trust Caroline. Out of the blue, he offered me a sincere apology. Sorry. My bad. Let's start over. I was utterly flabbergasted by Nicholas, who seemed to think an apology would fix everything. I then handed him the divorce papers I had prepared in advance. We can't be a married couple anymore. You'll sign this, right? In the divorce proceedings, I also demanded $30,000 in damages, $20,000 for property division, and $1,000 for monthly child support. Please, don't say that. Reconsider. It's too late for that. The only person I love is you, Sophie. Just as Nicholas was resisting, making all sorts of excuses and hesitating to sign, Margaret came downstairs and ran over to him. Dad, do you need help signing? Should Margaret write it for you? Margaret smiled innocently at him. Unable to resist any longer, Nicholas signed the papers without a word. Dad, I signed it well for you. Margaret, who knew nothing of the situation, beamed happily. Sasha noticed the situation and invited Margaret to the park. Full of energy, Margaret said, I'll be going now. and left. I'll also demand $1.5 million from you in the divorce case, I told Caroline. She lost her temper, her face turning red. Why should I have to pay? I'll also be contacting the police about you. Pay for your crime. Caroline's face turned pale, and she started to tremble. I can't be caught now. She dashed out of the living room towards the entrance. However, police were already waiting outside, and Caroline was immediately arrested. Let go of me! Caroline, whose appearance was far from her shrieks, thrashed about as she was restrained by the police. Nicholas, who had followed her to the entrance, looked drained when he saw what was happening. A police officer then tapped Nicholas on the shoulder and said, "It's time to go." No way! Why do I have to be arrested? Sophie, help me! Nicholas resisted and struggled, but the burly police officers dragged him into the patrol car and drove off. About 15 minutes later, Sasha and Margaret returned home. Sasha had tears in her eyes and apologized to me, as if she'd seen everything from a distance. Turns out, it was Sasha who called the police. When I found out about Nicholas's plan to ruin me with Caroline, I immediately confided in Sasha. Shocked, Sasha said, "If that's true, it's my responsibility as a parent to report this to the police." And she agreed to help. That's why she had been keeping an eye on us while entertaining Margaret upstairs. I guess she took Margaret to the park because she couldn't bear to let her granddaughter see her father get arrested. I said, "I'm sorry for causing such a commotion," and handed Sasha a handkerchief. The next day, I filed for divorce in court. Nicholas and Caroline ended up behind bars. Nicholas sold our home and used the money to pay alimony and child support. Sasha covered the remaining costs, saying, "It's the least I could do." The plan was to make Nicholas pay her back once he's out of jail. As for the compensation claimed in the divorce case against Caroline, I plan on having her pay in full once she has served her time. Meanwhile, Margaret and I moved back to my parents' house. Margaret is doted on by my parents, who find her incredibly adorable. I am committed to protecting my sweet Margaret and pouring all my love into her from now on. My name is Sarah. I am a 37-year-old stay-at-home mom. I've been married to my husband, John, for 8 years. We had difficulty having children, and it took us 4 years of fertility treatment. But our dream has finally come true. And to our surprise, we're expecting twins. I was so overjoyed that I cried in front of my doctor. When I told my husband about my pregnancy with twins, he was over the moon. Of course, my parents were delighted too. My in-laws, on the other hand, were utterly surprised. Well, isn't this something? Not only Bob, but you too, John? I wonder if we have the genes for twins running in our family. My mother-in-law said. Yes, indeed. My husband's younger brother, Bob, also has twins. Unlike us, Bob and his wife had children right after getting married. Their twin boys are currently 4 years old and at their mischievous stage. I'm quite anxious about raising twins, so it's reassuring to have someone nearby who I can consult about parenting. As the expected delivery date draws near, I struggle more with my huge belly. Being pregnant with a twin is anything but relaxing. It's a blessing to know that my twins have grown this much, without any major issues. These twins are doing their parents a favor even before they're born. I pondered, already feeling like a proud mom, as I somehow managed to get the housework done. What's this? This doesn't taste right. Despite my efforts to keep up with housework, my husband keeps complaining. I'm sorry. I couldn't taste it because I was feeling sick. What's that about? Your morning sickness should be over by now, and you should be in your stable period. Stop making excuses. There's no stable period with a twin pregnancy. Don't make excuses. You're a stay-at-home mom. At least get your cooking right. And what's with this mess? My husband is always angry and complaining. He doesn't help with anything. He won't even take out the trash. Besides my husband, who shows no sympathy, there's another one that stresses me out. What's with this mess? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off. I'm sorry. I've been feeling sick since morning. Seriously, can you even give birth like that? You know you won't be done after just popping babies. Your job as a mom starts only after that. Yes, I am aware. Now, go fix my lunch. My mother-in-law, who visits every day, is my biggest source of stress. My in-laws' house is about a 10-minute bike ride away. My mother-in-law shows up every day around noon, nags at me, then has me prepare lunch for her. And then she continues to nag and be mean to me until she leaves, a truly baffling behavior. I guess it's okay to leave my father-in-law on his own. I'm at my wit's end with my mother-in-law's daily assaults. I finally brought it up with my husband. Listen, my due date is approaching. I'm thinking of going back to my parents' home. Huh? Aren't you supposed to be hospitalized before your due date? Just stay here until then. I'm scheduled for a C-section, so I'll be admitted to the hospital a little before my due date. Yes, but we don't know when labor will start, do we? Besides, honestly, it's tough having your mom over every day. What's that supposed to mean? I told my husband about the daily onslaught from my mother-in-law. He knew she was coming over every day, but he probably didn't know that she stays for long. He looks a bit surprised. Well, I understand it might seem a bit selfish, but isn't it because she feels comfortable with you? Huh? She likes being around you. She treats you like her own daughter, doesn't she? So be a little nice to her. Well, I could stand her before my belly got big, but now it's impossible. Don't you feel anything looking at this belly? As I pointed to my enlarged belly, my husband just shrugged his shoulders. Well, I guess it is big and might make moving around difficult. Do you realize how hard it is to walk with this belly? And yet, your mom keeps coming over and nagging me every day. She doesn't help at all. In fact, she just bosses me around. It might lead to irreparable consequences. Are you okay with our baby being affected? Well, I certainly don't want that. Then please talk to your mother. If you continue to ignore me, I'll fight for myself. As I talked, my emotions ran high, and words slipped out unexpectedly. Seeing my surprise, my husband's eyes widened. What's that? Are you talking about divorce? If things remain as they are, yes. I'm really at my limit. If I continue to be troubled by my MIL. If my husband continues to side with my mother-in-law. He probably realized I was serious about it and let out a deep sigh. I understand. Really? Really? Can't you believe me? It's not like that, but... To be honest, I am skeptical. There are signs that my husband values his mother more than me. Then let's do this. Prepare the divorce papers. Huh? If you think you can't trust me and it's not going to work, you can file them whenever you want. How about that? Can you believe me now? Yes. Seeing my husband's determination, I felt relieved. After that, my husband actually prepared the divorce papers and seemed to have warned his mother. In the end, I didn't return to my parents' place, but after that day there were no more onslaughts from my mother-in-law until I was hospitalized. Then I had a C-section and safely gave birth to twins. For a while after that, I stayed at my parents' home, somehow managing the whirlwind of first-time parenthood. However, as a new mom, I was struggling raising my twins. Then one day, my husband came to visit me at my parents' place. "Can you come back home soon?" "Huh? It hasn't even been a month yet?" "It's already been a month. Aren't you just having too much fun while leaving the house?" "Fun? I have no such time. Being a mother to twins is tough. I'm enduring my painfully slow recovery from childbirth because of my advanced age, and yet I'm still taking care of our kids." "So what if you're old? There are plenty of people who don't return to their parents after giving birth. Stop being such a baby. Just come back home already." After saying those harsh words behind, my husband left. Didn't he come to see our kids? Without even properly looking at his children or holding them, my husband left just like that. While calming down my crying twins, I too became sad and shed tears. Not wanting to strain our marriage, I returned home, shaking off my parents who tried to hold me back. "You finally came back. Do you even understand what it means to be a wife?" The moment I opened the door, these were the words that came out of my mother-in-law's mouth. She was waiting for me, standing there like a guardian statue. Exhausted, I found it hard to even respond, so I silently walked past my mother-in-law. "Hey! Don't ignore me!" Ignoring these words as well, I entered the room and was left speechless. I can't call this place my home. Looking at the disastrous state of the house, I unwittingly muttered these words. The kitchen was piled with dishes, with no space for cooking. The floor was covered with discarded clothes, garbage from empty lunchboxes, and more. And to think I had just been away for about a month. Mother-in-law, did you come here while I was away?" "I was here all the time. I was worried about my son struggling alone." "So you were here all the time, and we still have this mess. Worried about your son. And yet you just let our room turn into a mess? Anyone would fall sick in an environment like this. And it's unsanitary for my babies. She's raised kids before, does she not even care about basic hygiene? First, I will put my twins to sleep in the bedroom where their crib is set up. Then I started to clean up. Phew, I guess this will do for now. Just when I finally finished cleaning up. Wah! I don't even have a moment to catch a breath with my crying babies. By the time I finished cleaning, the sun was already starting to set. "You're finally done? You're so slow," my mother-in-law said, while she sat on a chair and sipped her tea. It took everything in me to not splash her tea over her head. As my face strained while feeling my babies, my mother-in-law set down her teacup with a clink and looked at me, saying, "Oh, by the way. Starting this weekend, Bob's twins will be coming over. You don't mind looking after them, do you?" "Excuse me?" I was so shocked that I had to take a long pause before responding. I mean, I didn't understand what she just said. "Could you please repeat that?" I said, "Bob. My youngest son. The twins from his family are going to be staying with us on weekends from now on." "What do you mean by that?" "We're doing this to give Bob and his wife a break. You're having an easy time with your own twins who just sleep all day, so it's only fair that you do this for them, right?" I don't understand what she means. I'm just dumbfounded. I'm not having an easy time at all. In fact, I'm so busy I barely have time to sleep. With the situation at home now, things are only going to be more rough. What on earth is my mother-in-law saying? What's so hard about being a stay-at-home mom? I'm giving you a job to do, be grateful and accept it. I can't. You just can't because you're inefficient with housework. Don't make your incompetence an excuse. It's been decided, this is a done deal. With that, she left. Just like my husband, she states her piece and leaves without hearing me out. But now isn't the time for me to be impressed at how similar my husband is to his mother. Like mother, like son. All panicked, I called my husband, who should still be at work. What's up? I'm busy right now. Listen, your mom just said the most outrageous thing. She wants us to look after Bob's twins on the weekends. Oh, that. You knew about this. I couldn't believe my husband knew about this. Why didn't you say no? Well, Bob's family is having a tough time. They can't even eat out because the twins are so rowdy, and they don't get any rest or time to enjoy themselves. Don't you feel bad for them? Yeah, that must be rough, but why does that mean we have to take care of them? Your mom and dad can take care of them instead. Mom and dad are too old for that. You want to put all that burden on them? You're so cold-hearted. What about me? I'm already overwhelmed with taking care of our own twins. Babies are easy, they just sleep, eat, and sleep again. It's not that hard. Oh, and don't slack off on housework. I won't allow any excuses. Keep that in mind. If you refuse, we're getting a divorce. What? Aren't you going to help? Me? No way. You want your hardworking husband to work even on his day off? You're a devil. There's no point in talking to them. Both my husband and my mother-in-law are the absolute worst. It feels like I'm talking to a wall. I ended the call in silence. Even with all the crap that I've been enduring, to my surprise, I'm still cool-headed. I decided to call elsewhere. A few minutes later, having ended the call, I found myself gazing at my sleeping twins. The adorable faces of the twins gave me courage. My husband and mother-in-law were solely fixated on their own interest over these cute little twins. There's not a shred of consideration for me. Whether they're around or not, my workload won't change. So with both my husband and mother-in-law, I've decided to completely sever ties with them. That night, my phone rang. Looking at my phone screen, it was from my husband. Hello? I just got home. Why aren't you here? Where are you? I'm at my parents' house. What? You came back from the hospital. Why are you still at your parents' house? I went back home once and cleaned up. It's clean now, isn't it? So why are you at your parents' house now? Because I'm fed up with you. With that, I ended the call and then turned off my phone. I thought he might call my parents' house, but perhaps it was awkward for him if my parents picked up, so no call came. Instead, the next morning, my husband showed up. Hey, Sarah. You're here, aren't you? What the hell are you thinking? To my surprise, my mother-in-law was with him. The lovely mother-son duo had made their appearance. Can you not cause a scene this early in the morning? As I responded with a displeased face, my husband yelled, What the hell do you think you're doing? Hurry up and come back home. Yes, come back and take care of the house. What am I supposed to eat? My mother-in-law chimed in. They both teamed up and exclaimed energetically. I thought, why don't you guys go eat some grass in the yard? But it wasn't the right time to strike back. I gave a cold stare to the two who were pressing me and clearly stated, My home is here. I'm not going back to the house where you guys stay. What? Are you saying you're going to get a divorce? Yes. Matter of fact, I submitted the divorce papers last night. You said it yourself. That I can turn in the papers whenever I want, if things don't work out for me. You said the same thing yesterday. That's just a figure of speech. It's just to show my determination. Who would even take that literally? I did. My husband seemed to be at a loss for words. Sarah, you're just mentally unstable from giving birth aren't you? Get another marriage certificate and come back. If you do what you're supposed to do, I'll forgive you. My mother-in-law took over, trying to convince me. Go back, take care of you, and look after your other son's twins on the weekends. Is that what you want? I asked, confirming what my mother-in-law wanted out of me. Of course. I decline. What did you say? First of all, does Bob know that I am taking care of his kids? Huh? Bob didn't know that I was taking care of them, did he? Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law's face turned pale in an instant. Indeed. To my disbelief, my mother-in-law decided on her own to make me take care of Bob's twins. In fact, I had called Bob after I talked with my husband last night. When I explained the situation, Bob was very surprised. You're already taking care of your own twins, aren't you? I wouldn't dream of burdening you with our kids too. Sure, our twins can be a handful, but we love them to pieces. If we left them with you on our days off, we wouldn't get to play with them. In other words, my mother-in-law had taken upon herself to assume that Bob and his wife, who had casually mentioned that raising twins is hard, needed help. And so, she decided to take in the twins on her own. And then she tried to delegate the responsibility to me. I could never understand her. The divorce proceedings are done. Can you please leave now? There's no way I can accept this. My husband insists stubbornly. Can you stop already? All of a sudden, I heard someone yell from behind. When I turned around, my father was standing there. Dad! He was flustered. You've been saying some pretty selfish things. Have you ever helped out around the house? Do you even look after the twins at all? My husband was searching for words in response to my father's questions. I'm tired from work. Oh? Yet I hear that you take breaks all the time without doing any significant work. Even when everyone else is working overtime, you always leave work on time. And yet I hear that you're always coming home late. Are you having an affair? No. I was just hanging out. Really now? You push all the housework and childcare onto my daughter and then go have fun. You have it easy, don't you? Well, that's... In reality, my husband was employed at the company my father runs. While it's a small-scale business, it has a fair number of employees. And among them, my husband had been loafing around, acting high and mighty because he's the CEO's sister-in-law. This fact came to light when my father conducted an internal investigation. I had believed he was working hard late into the night, so I can't believe this. I will ask you to quit the company due to your problematic behavior. There's no reason to keep someone who's not a family member any longer since you've divorced my daughter. What? No way. Get out of here. I'll give you a formal notice tomorrow. Make sure to quickly pack your things at the office early in the morning. Huh. My husband turned pale hearing my father declare his termination. No, my ex-husband. My father turned his back on my ex-husband, and as I was about to enter our home, my ex-husband did something completely unexpected. My ex-husband forcefully pushed me aside and tried to barge into our home. Hey, what are you doing? My ex-husband was attempted to shove my father away. Move. Hand over my kids. If they're with you, you'll come back, right? My ex-husband was yelling nonsense. Don't be absurd, using your own child as a hostage. Shut up. It's because you won't come back. My ex-husband was desperately trying to force his way into our home. I clung onto him, trying to prevent his intrusion. My ex-mother-in-law was frantically trying to pull me off him. My father rushed to block the front door from inside. It was an utter chaos. If I let him take away my children, only the absolute worst would be waiting for all of us. I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Stop." Just then, I thought I heard the siren of a police car approaching, followed by a sharp brake noise in front of our house. "Officer, over here!" "Mom?" The person who squeezed past my father and rushed out was my mother. She hurried towards the officer who had just gotten out of the police car, appearing to explain the situation. And then, "What the hell? I'm her husband. I'm her family. What's wrong with entering my in-laws' home? I'm this boy's mother. Why are you cops here?" All right, we'll hear your story at our office." My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were vigorously resisting the police's questioning, and it seems they were eventually taken away. My mother, who had been watching our exchange from inside the house, had sensed something was off and called the police. "Thank you, Mom. I called because I thought something was wrong, but to think they would try to take away the twins, they're unbelievable. To try and change my feelings by taking our kids as hostage, they're awful." After explaining the situation to the officer, we exchanged wry smiles. Later on, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law got released, but they got a restraining order from me. After discussions through a lawyer, I was able to successfully receive a lump sum payment for alimony and child support. My ex-husband, who had been fired from my father's company and lost all his money, ended up living a hard life in a rundown apartment, working part-time. How do I know this? Because my ex-husband sent me numerous texts, repeatedly whining about his situation. I was wrong. I love you and the kids. Why was I so selfish? I've changed. Can't we start over? Or if you could just do the cleaning and laundry, I will forgive you. I will come back. I'll be waiting, and so on. Even though he says I was wrong, why does he end his texts with, "I will forgive you"? It doesn't make sense. Of course, I ignored him. I got fed up and finally blocked him. I heard from my ex-BAL, Bob, that my ex-mother-in-law had moved into my ex-husband's shabby apartment. Surprisingly, my ex-mother-in-law had apparently been asked for a divorce from my ex-FAL quite some time ago. Which explains why she came over to our place often. My ex-mother-in-law, who used to pick on everything I did, turned out to be a hopeless housewife who couldn't do any chores. I heard my ex and his mother are constantly fighting, as neither of them can do basic chores. "My mother and brother have caused you trouble. I am so sorry." Bob apologized to me over the phone, sounding sorry. Bob must have inherited my ex-father-in-law's senses. Raising twins must be tough. Please don't hesitate to consult me or my wife. His supportive words made me very happy. After hanging up the phone, the cries of the twins echoed throughout the house. All right, I'm coming. As I peacefully watch my adorable twins grow, I feel nothing but happiness.